Welcome to the Get Real Sisters podcast. We're sisters, each other's biggest supporter and confidant. We keep it real with each other, just like we're going to keep it real with you, with discussions about life, the good, the bad, and in between. We're here to grow and get real. So don't forget to subscribe and share. Let's go.
What up?
Hey, what's going on?
It's your girls out here on the Get Real Sisters podcast, coming to you with episode 7.
Lucky 7.
Right. And y'all, let me tell you, I don't even believe in luck, but today we're going to believe in it. This topic is juicy. And I think one that every single person, male, female, children, adult, grandma, grandpa, can all relate, that we feel this more often than not, and it's a conversation that we just need to have and should normalize having, because a lot of us, all of us.
Yeah. If you guys caught our live, which was last Wednesday, towards the end of it, there was like a big realization after we were discussing what I can't even remember right this second. Like the primary topic, because I just giving space, right. We're giving space, and then this point blew my mind, so it erased everything from before. But towards the end of the podcast, I had been talking about how personally I needed to get more comfortable with being able to give my daughter Layla, who's about to be 14 next week, some space for certain things or different types of ways that she needs to heal for a variety of reasons, without too much details. But Jasmine pulled the Y, or the 7Y activity, on me, and we got down to the fact is the reason why I was feeling so stuck or so terrible in this moment of vulnerability with Layla is because I didn't have an active hand, or don't feel like I have an active hand in what could possibly help her through depression that she's dealing with. Is bottom line self-worth. I personally determine my self-worth by the impact I have on others. So that is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about self-worth and how it's different from just the overall sense of worthiness, because worthiness in its own can be how someone else thinks of you. How are you worthy to someone else? But what we are diving deeper into is how do we give that sense of value to ourselves, and the different things that can impact it, and what either, of course, Dad called me back now. I told him I was about to be on the podcast.
Come on, Padre.
How the self-worth can impact how we communicate, whether it's high or low. So yeah, let's get it popping.
Yeah, I love it. It's obviously a topic within self-love, and I think I don't want to say without, so like just having the self-worth can only make you feel good, but because I think a lot of people that watch this podcast, that comment on our podcast, I think a lot of people we center ourselves around are so focused on the impact of others. And as you know, or maybe don't know, and I'm hipping you to the game now, you cannot make a large impact in this world ever if you do not focus on yourself first, period. And I think a lot, I've heard it count, and I know you and I have had this conversation countless times again, speaking to the mothers, the parents out there, even fathers too, right? They get so anal focused on, I need to care for, I need to do this for my child. And that's what they're like, I need to do it, right? I was having a recent conversation about this, of where I understand that, and I'm not knocking you for that being, again, I think a lot of parents will say, my top priority is my kids. And kudos to you. And I'm not knocking you for saying that. Kind of am, though, I don't agree with that statement. And because both of us, come from or growing up where we've seen both sides of it, right? Where I don't want to say necessarily didn't get like, what I'm saying in general is that a parent or parents genuinely cared about us first. And although in the moment as children, we were like, yeah, definitely, I know you better, right? It's just as we've gotten older as an adult, I specifically have been able to look back now and just reflect of like, no, man, like it's so heartbreaking now to see, okay, because we're adults, you don't really know what to do with yourself because you are so focused on us and our
Yeah.
happiness that you don't understand what your self-worth is. And now you're
Hmm.
banged out because now you're pushing 50, if not higher, right?
And you get a sense of feeling lost.
Right.
And self-worth, like there's so many different factors that go into your
Yep.
feelings of self-worth. I was reading something that a psychologist, Sabrina Romanoff, came up with a bunch of different factors. So yes, there are external factors, but there's internal factors as well. So things like your own core beliefs and values,
Mhm.
your thoughts, feelings, emotions, your experiences with other people, your relationships. So these can be past, present, but they can also be not just romantic relationships, your relationships with your family and your friends. Your health and physical fitness can
Mhm.
contribute to your feeling of self-worth, your career, your activities and hobbies, social status, financial position, your physical appearance, so all of those different things can all add into your own sense. So the definition I found, or one of the definitions I found, was that self-worth was your sense of your own value related to love,
Mm.
feeling loved, and the sense of belonging.
Yep.
Like that's basically how we're gauging it. Do I feel loved? Do I feel like I belong here?
Yep. Like a purpose, having purpose, meaning
Mhm.
to being.
Yep.
Okay.
Uh,
I I think that's spot on. Okay.
yeah.
That's
And
why it's the
I agree
definition.
with you that because there's so many things in life, whether you are a parent, whether you have a partner in your life, whether you are just a single person trying to figure out life on your own, there's so many outside influences
Yes.
that you can get caught up in the day to day, going to work, paying bills, and doing the laundry, making dinner, all those different things
Yep.
that are so part of almost muscle memory that you don't really need to think to do those things.
Yep.
Like you're just doing them. It's almost like breathing, you're just doing them because you have to. Where when you end up getting the chance or need to put yourself in a space where you need to figure out, okay, Shanice, what do I want to do? What actually makes
Right.
me happy? And now all of a sudden I don't know because I've been focused on so many other things that had
Yep.
nothing, I mean, they have to do with you, but they weren't just about me, that you're almost on a whole nother journey to figure out
Yep.
who you
Agreed. And I think society, us as a unit, we really bang it up. And why I say we bang it up is because I think the majority of our lives, or at least our core, when I say core, I mean like childhood, right?
are.
Is we're encouraged teamwork, sharing, right? Like you're so focused on that aspect of it. And now as an adult, we're kind of reverse unoing on it, where we're like, no, I focus on you. You know what I'm saying? You're like, you feel like, I think sometimes I feel like, right? It's like if I say if I'm like, well, I don't like that. I don't want to do that, right? You're starting to feel like, am I being selfish? And
Mhm.
you're always in the back of your mind questioning, is this selfish or not? And at the end of the day, and this is where I think we need to push for, it's okay to be selfish. You
And
know, it
circumstances.
certain exactly. I was like, thank you for finishing that sentence, right? Because I think in general, I've said it before on this podcast, too much of anything is going to jam you up. So being too much of I, like, well, it's not all about you,
Mhm.
right? But I don't think a lot of us, I don't think there's a middle ground, right? We're either I care about everyone, I only care about myself. And we need to kind of bridge that gap and bring it into the middle where it's like you have a
Well,
good
that's what I was
balance.
gonna say. I was like, I almost was gonna say, I kind of disagree with what you said, but it's more so that I think even with self-worth, you can totally use your team or whoever's your support system
Yep.
to help you either realize your self-worth or have you remind you that you need to focus on it.
Yes.
Um, because I think it's also a lot easier sometimes for that network of people you have around you to see
Yes.
your worthiness, um, and try to, at least, because it is hard. If you have a low self-worth or low self-esteem, it's going to be that much harder for someone else to be like, but I see this great thing in you. I see this, and this, for you to actually believe it. Or even if you know that,
Yep.
the negative things that you're telling yourself can outweigh it or wash it away,
No
even if
doubt.
you know it at the end of the day, if you were sitting down with yourself. So, um, I think definitely all these different factors can impact for sure how we see ourselves. So if you're saying a bunch of negative things to yourself all day, I'm not worth this person's time. I'm not worth this job. I'm not worth my kids' own affection.
Yep.
Then that's exactly the lifestyle that you're going to live, because that's all you're feeding your mentality.
Yeah.
Versus someone who maybe has a high or a higher self-worth, they know these things and carry themselves in a way that almost has like a light, like a light. Like I might not be confident in every single thing, but I know an amazing listener. I know that um I'm loved because, you know, I don't even know. I don't know how to, I'm thinking on the spot right now.
No, and
So
I honestly, but I'm going to pause for a second because I appreciate the two things that you just said. And not that I don't want to, I'm going to use the word, I'm going to challenge you, but I'm going to question, I guess, a little bit because your two comments, um, involved other people.
mhm.
So personally, for me, when it comes to self-worth, is that you should try your best to pull out your strengths, right?
Right, that's what the
So
good listener part was. That's even though
I
someone
agree.
else has to be there, but
Right.
that's still a
Exactly.
quality of mine.
Yes, I agree. So where again, I think challenging was right, but because you were backing it up with another thing that was focused on someone else, like I say is that you are a fantastic listener, right? But what are things that I say put that in the bag, like check that, yep, count it. What are things that you do so great as an individual that does not include someone else?
That one. Um, I'm good at organizing
Mhm.
the things I want to organize.
Exactly.
Um, good cook.
Come on. I was waiting. I wanted you to make sure because can I pause you again? I'm sorry. I might be in this whole podcast. I might pause you. Obviously, because you and I have had deeper dialogues and conversations, why conversations.
Mhm.
Um, cook for me was naturally the first thing that came into my mind. And because we sorted through your seven whys, right? Like why is cooking so important to you? It is
Mhm.
connected, right? The root of it is connected to other people.
Mhm.
But
Because for me, I firmly believe that my purpose is to positively impact as many people as possible,
Mhm.
because I think that is the key to getting out of the craziness that this world has. Like
Exactly.
we have so many negative things going on, so that's how I think that I can develop that, which I
Yep.
do get can be very external. I would say like some things that are on my like low side is sometimes I do battle with how I think of myself as far as my physical appearance. Um, my relationships, we already talked about how I like part of how I weigh my self-worth is how I feel like my love is being received by the
Mm.
people closest to me and how they what's the word? Reciprocate,
Yep.
reciprocate that love back to me.
Yep. Come on,
Um,
plug in real quick. Go back to the Love Language podcast episode.
true, true.
And
Um,
I'm so sorry not to interrupt. My bad.
mhm.
I'm gonna pause and talk to y'all real quick. Do you feel like you know what your purpose is? And if not, let us know. Let us know because they're not. I think there's also that pressure of feeling like you have to know what your purpose is right away, or so it's not like that. I think it
Mhm.
takes a lot of experience and even, right, Shanice, which I agree with what you say, or that is where the way I perceive you and think that what your purpose is. But let's say that this is her purpose right now, and that's what she feels is true to her, and blah, 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 blah. That could change. That could
Totally,
change.
totally. And it's fine. You could be 82 and all of a sudden your purpose changed,
Exactly.
because of these experiences that you have or the different things that you learn as you go. There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with it changing. And
Right.
it doesn't mean that you weren't worthy because you weren't living. I feel like there's
Exactly.
definitely podcasts I've heard or like book books. I don't know what I was about to say, but it was not about to be English. Books that I've read where I feel like they kind of make it seem like if you don't know your purpose, then you're wasting your life.
Mm.
And I think that is a terrible outlook
Right.
for
Right.
people that are just trying to make it. Is
Mhm.
if you happen to either find your purpose or change what your purpose is, that everything you did before was a waste of time. And
Mm.
now you are adding that pressure back to a timeline that you think you didn't live up to
Yep.
because of that.
Yep. I
So
agree.
I got some tips that are going to tie back into that later, but um what would you say like your personal example or how you perceive your self-worth is?
Your girl is absolutely amazing, actually. What? Um, so how do I perceive my self-worth? Um, I literally I did just answer in like a haha kind of moment, but I do believe that. Um, I'm an amazing individual. And it's going to, I think a lot of, let me not. Um, again, is I feel like I'm a firm believer of you have to focus on yourself first before you can pour into others in this world. And very similar to you is I believe my purpose is right to make a large impact in this world and to help others see their self-love, see their self-confidence, see their self-worth. Um, but how am I able to do that to the best of my ability is I've had to do it on my own and still doing it on my own, right? Very cliche, lead by example is if I'm not practicing these behaviors, girl's not perfect. So, but if I'm not attempting to practice these behaviors, there's no way I can show up and make this larger impact, correct?
Mhm.
Um, but I want to go for an example wise. And I was actually just recently having this conversation, and I don't know, Shanice, if you've ever felt this way or anybody listening that has ever felt this, um, that you come across as this light, you come across as this positive or someone that just has it together, right? Um, and I'm going to speak for myself as I get those comments here and there. And I was about to say all the time, which is true, but it's going to defeat the purpose of what I'm saying is that I know I am perceived as that kind of person. In that same breath, I don't hear those words very often. And I know I don't hear those words because everyone a lot of people looking at me just assume she knows that. She feels that. She must hear that all the time. And so for a while, years of my life, I didn't hear those words. Although I knew, Shanice's example, my father, my family, I knew they looked at me that way, but I didn't hear those words on a consistent basis. But I was looking for those external confirmations. That's where I was jammed up. That's where I was banging up my self worth. So that's where I did not feel worthy. I'm like, well, damn, like, I mean, if this is like, I feel this kind of, but no one else is saying it. well, girl, why are you even banged up or worried, focused on what everybody else is about to tell you? Okay.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
if someone else doesn't bring it up, it's almost
right,
as if it's not true.
right.
Things can be
Um,
true even if it's not recognized
yep.
outwardly.
And I know, so I'm going to kind of contradict it a little bit, but, and I'll circle back of what I believe is maybe a good, well, what helped me, what was a good best practice for me. So more recent, a most recent experience is when I moved, right? So moved out of Mass. And again, there's not there's no gray area. I know I am very much so loved and I have an amazing support system. And I've always, I'd say almost my entire life, I've been supported on the things that I do, if not from a large group, my small group. Okay. And I love y'all for that. Um, Now more specifically, I'm going to bring up my father. So those that know, that's my guy. Okay. He knows everything. I taught him everything he knows, kind of thing. Um, but this night, the day before I was heading out, I had many moments this night. As soon as you know that, had many of these crying moments. Now, my father and I were able to have a very intimate, close, just him and I, while the rest of the party was going on. And in this corner, my dad was saying to me, okay, hold on. Your girl's about to get emotional for a second, so let's reel it in. He was saying how proud he was of me. And it's not that I've never heard those words before, but he was again, how proud I am of you. You're doing amazing things. Like, of course, um, you deserve this. Like those kind of words, like very powerful statements that people have heard me say before about myself. But hearing him say it, I felt like it hit a little different. Where I was like, wow. And I felt like it registered even more of, or it was an additional confirmation for me of
Mm.
you're on the right path, Jess. You're doing the things that you've always said you were going to do, right? Um, Go do it. So contradicting a little bit of right, like that was still an external force that I was relying on. Well, yeah, maybe not relying on because was doing it regardless, but it gave me that extra push that I feel like it's needed because and I'm saying all this to say is that it's still okay to hear these things or want those things
Yeah,
from
it's
external
like the
factors.
validation.
Yes,
And
that's the
then
word.
sometimes, like kind of to your point, where you're like, it's not that you weren't hearing them, but sometimes who says them
Right,
matters more. Like
right.
you could be here, you
Thousand.
could have, I'm not saying this was your experience, but you could have been hearing that every single day from people that you don't hold to the same
Yep,
standard. So
yep.
someone like your dad or the person you're with,
Agree.
their words are gonna weigh heavier than
Right.
maybe some random person on the street. So
Yes. And even so, of course, that was a more recent situation, but in general, what has helped me and what I highly encourage, like elephant in the room, all that great stuff, elephant in the moment, because we're all super awkward at first. Those mirror talks, those dialogues that you're having with yourself are so crucial. And why I'm saying that, right, is I did a recent activity in my last exclusive queen event where we said affirmations, right? I am worthy. I am deserving. And
that was
the
a
first
crazy one.
time, right? It was. It was. And when everyone, the first time they said it, the whatever the statement was, they just chuckled. Haha, I'm deserving. Hee And then, but as we narrowed it down and focused on the one that made them feel the most uncomfortable, is when emotion really started to come through. And that's where everyone in that room knew, okay, well, that's what I need to work on. That's what I individually need to one, tell myself even more.
Mm.
Um, on the other side of that, guys, everyone, you are going to have people, haters, we're going to call them that may look at you and be like, she's so full of herself. He's so full of herself, right? Whether you're because that's what I was doing in the beginning. I'm videoing myself. Corny, cheesy, full of myself, whatever. I didn't just wake up one day and was confident. And still today, I'm not 100% confident. But guess what? Yep, I'm in that mirror with that whole attitude telling myself, girl, you are it. That's like my favorite first line. You are it. And with the first time, the second time, the fifth, 10th time that I've said it, I didn't necessarily believe it. But as I continue to have that consistent behavior, I'm building up my self-worth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's simple as just statements. I didn't even act on. I'm actually I am acting on it because I am saying it to myself, a reflection of myself, right? Before I was just saying to you guys, right? I'm looking for the external factor. Girl, you are your external factor. Look at yourself in the mirror.
Mm. I like that. You are your own external factor. Because I would say for self-worth, especially because it's you that is analyzing. Do
Mhm.
I feel loved? Do I feel like I belong here? Do I see myself in this world
Right.
somewhere?
Yep.
Um, I would love, even though I think it's self-worth is definitely like I feel like there you can't necessarily cut every external source because that's kind of
Agreed.
how you gauge a lot of it. But I would say that for self-worth, it's amazing to feel that you are loved and enough and you belong without anybody else involved in that. That you believe it, whether these external sources are even around, there, available. It can definitely help if they're also there to like build you up, but um that's a really great place to be. And I think you're exactly right with like how you need to be active in the pieces that you can control. You can't control external things that are happening to you to
Exactly.
extent maybe, but not really. So what you
Yep.
can control is definitely what you're saying to yourself.
Absolutely.
And that repetition of repeating it, if you don't believe it in that moment, is definitely, I think we've touched on it, I think, in almost every podcast,
Yes.
that what you're
Your
saying
positive words. Hmm.
change how your brain physically is wired and how you start thinking and feeling about yourself for real.
No doubt. No doubt. What do you feel like is for you, um, and maybe there isn't one specific, but one that you maybe want to hone in on, that you've struggled personally with self-worth? Like, what is there a certain topic or um
Um,
subcategory?
I mean, one that probably comes front of mind is my like I mentioned my physical appearance because I when you were talking about the exclusive queen event, um, the thing that really had me choked up like crying was so she had us standing in front of a mirror to tell these things to ourselves. And, we went through a list of topics, but the one that I was stuck on was I am beautiful. Because there's a lot of days where I don't feel like that I don't feel like that right now. So she just kept having me repeat it, say it louder and louder, keep repeating, I am beautiful, I am beautiful. And like because it was so hard to say, because I didn't believe it, my tears dripping down my face. Um, since then, um, I've tried to be, one of my first tips is to be kind to yourself.
Mm.
So every
Hmm.
time I look in the mirror, I try to be kind to myself,
Yep.
and say a positive thing. I don't necessarily need to go down like my whole body or what, if I'm just focusing on physical appearance and be like, oh, girl, your hair is so good, or so good, fly, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. Or your body's perfect the way it is. Not needing to do every single point, but hit one of them.
Yep.
Um, so I would definitely say that would be what contributes to lowering my self-worth would definitely be physical appearance on there. So I try to be kind to myself. And then the second part of that, challenge any of the unkind thoughts. So I think
Mm.
those unkind thoughts come way easier for me. you know,
But
like
show.
we're our hardest critic and we're ready to tell ourselves that we suck every day or something. So anytime that I have one of those negative thoughts, I'm like, oh, I don't like how my stomach looks. Like, I've had 2 kids, I got stretch marks, I got a cesarean scar, like
Mm.
things that I can nitpick and um pull myself down. But
Yes.
I try to, as soon as possible, like right after I have that thought, girl, why do you even think that? You are beautiful. You brought life into this world and you were deserving of those scars, of whatever
Yes.
you have going on. You know what I mean? Like you put work in to bring these lives
You
here.
doing it, girl.
So definitely that. And then I would say my third tip to hopefully increase would be getting to know yourself. Like we talk about feelings
Yes.
like loss and you're not sure who you are or anything like that, or reevaluate your values. Again,
Yes.
these things can change. So if your values happen to change based on your experiences, it is fine to do like a status check. Okay, well, maybe my self-worth isn't really based on this anymore. It's based on this. Let me put myself in positions where I can be enveloped in that feeling.
Yep.
Because of that value, and do activities related to that value. Pick up a hobby related to that value. Talk to people that have those same values. So yeah, what about for you?
I just want to touch on you because all of them I feel like we're amazing. We're gonna start and circle on that talk because that talk is everything. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you got to walk and you got to talk and you got to talk for real. Um, and it goes with everything. And so to say that, yeah, I know we've all heard of compliment sandwiches. So if you feel like, if you're easing into this, right? Because I know you can't bat your eyes and all of a sudden you're like, everything is amazing. Yes, fantastic. Right. We're not robots. Um, but one thing I do not only for myself, but also for my team, when I address it right away about that negative, we're not doing a negative Nancy. Okay. I'm not saying we're not oblivious to reality. If things are going like there's a difference between being super negative and venting, right? Um, so don't allow it from anyone to be in a space where someone's just constantly negative. Um, but overall, if we're speaking specifically on self-worth, one thing that really, 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 really resonated me with an article I recently read, and I think sums it all up for us is prioritizing learning over overall performance.
Mm.
So a little bit more in the grit of what I'm actually saying is if you are focused on any and every situation that you're experiencing or internally, externally, if you're focused on learning from it and growing from it, whether it was amazing or the worst thing you've ever gone through, if you focus on those two things, learning and growing, I can assure you, I can promise you, and I don't make a lot of promises because if I can't keep them, I can promise you your self-worth is going to go through the roof because you're focused again on that learning and growing instead of your failures.
Mm-hmm. Instead of
Right?
whatever the results may be.
Approval, exactly. The results are everything. So I think that's key to just shift your focus there on learning and growing instead of that. And then the last one, um, I feel like I've already touched on it. I could go, I have literally a laundry list, but so, you're allowed to talk. So, but last one is to literally focus on your strengths, as I mentioned before, right? Asking yourself those simple questions of what makes you special? How are you unique?
Mm.
Um, in a lot of if you're in entrepreneurship or if you're not, a lot of those questions that you have to ask yourself is what do I do? What does my business do? What do I do that no one else does? Or what do I do that someone else needs?
I like that on a business level, but I like thinking of that. But if it's easier, you can make yourself the business.
Yep,
What is the
you are
business
the
of
business.
Shanice?
Okay,
What is the
Shanice
business of Shanice?
LLC.
How is
Thank
it
you.
unique?
Yes,
That's,
exactly.
that's
So
cool.
just in summary, just like what are your positive qualities? What like all of us have them. And if
Mm.
there's anything that you're struggling, and I'm going to circle back to the comment of like, because I know in this, you are deserving, right? If that's an affirmation, um, you are good enough. You are worthy. If there's ever like, if there's something, there's an emotion you feel, right? It could be in, I'm telling you, if you say that out loud, say, I, I am deserving, and look at yourself. If there's any other feeling other than confidence, work on it a little bit
Mm.
because there's something there in deeper that you need to work through. So yeah, those are my two, I'd say best practices or things to kind of really focus on because self-worth, man, like can really, really take you places all around. Um, and I think it's something that we, as a unit, as a group, as a tribe, as all of that, we can help one another with, right?
Yeah.
Because even to go back where you were saying, Shanice, about your figure, there are so many mother effing people that would die for the figure. And very same for me, right? But yet, although we know, like I know um, you are perceived as this baddie, K-boo, like you are, right? You have the curves, you have just perfection. But to you, although it is positive that you are being perceived as positive, because I think sometimes we think that we're being perceived as negative, we're not only focused on that. You could be perceived as super positive, but yet still don't feel that or believe that within
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
And that's okay. But if you start to focus on those small positives and qualities that are amazing to you, like you said, you might not be talking about the whole outfit, the whole shebang, but that day it could simply be your eyebrows.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, you see that? That curves perfect. And
Yeah,
your
I
hair
think
looking rough.
right. I think that would be a really great thing for us to expand on when we go live 2 Wednesdays from now,
Yes.
guys. Um, is really open it up to how we can really communicate better by having the higher self-worth,
No doubt.
different tactics that you have personally used to have your self-worth increase, or work through some things.
Yep.
We can have a
No
session
doubt.
together, guys.
Let's do it. I'm so excited. No, I'm just kidding.
To
I
prepare
have,
for that though.
right. I was going to say, I have the dopest, what's the word, activity for all of us. And I really want us to hone in. You have so many questions, so many examples that you can choose from. So we are going to link. You got to check the bio for this, guys. There you can come on action. Check the bio. There's going to be a link that you can go to. It's going to be 25 questions to ask. You need to carve out. I'm going to tell you right now, carve out at bare minimum an hour of just you. So your Zen space, whatever floats your boat, that an hour, and the next week to look at these 25 questions. Out of the 25 questions, pick 5, solely 5 for you to answer open, honestly. No need to share those responses with anyone unless you feel inclined to, and you're empowered to share with the world. But really, we really want you to hold on to those answers, those responses, and come hit us on the live. And we want to talk about those answers to those 5 questions.
Exactly. We're gonna be doing it ourselves. So
Yes,
November 15th. So 2 weeks from now, that's when we're gonna talk about that thing.
that
That
thing.
thing. And just really get your feelings and thoughts about what self-worth means to you, how
Right.
you're working through it, how you're not working through it,
No
and
doubt.
maybe need some direct advice from us.
Yep.
Um, you know, we mentioned a few times we're not trained professionals, but we got the gems though. We
We
have some
do.
experiences.
And we be dropping them. So I'm excited. I'm sure I haven't read all 25 questions, but the first 3, let me tell you something. So, ooh, oh, you're gonna get the tissue boxes ready. We're gonna get that pen
Oh
ready.
gosh. Okay.
Girl,
I can't
love.
wait to see it. I haven't seen it yet either, guys. So I can't wait to see it so we can work it on
Yes.
out.
Yes, girl. Well, again, self-worth, we could go on for ages, and who knows, there may be a part 2. Look out for the what's the word activity. Hello.
Yep.
And
But we're
let's
gonna
keep
leave it
feeling
here
worthy.
because that's, give little bits and come back to it.
No doubt.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let us know that you hear and watch, like, share, subscribe. You know the deal. But until next time.
All right. Peace and hair grease.